Welcome to Man at the Tap, a podcast of Tapestry Ministries. Each episode reflects on a daily Bible reading from the Revised Common Lectionary. I'm Gloria, a fellow traveler on a spiritual journey with the Tapestry community, and we refer to the daily Bible reading as our spiritual manna, nourishing our souls and fostering growth as we share insights and interpretations that enrich our spiritual lives. Tuesday, March the 11th, 2025, marks the sixth day of Lent. The lectionary reading comes from the Book of Psalms, the Bible's songbook. Have you ever found yourself between a rock and a hard place, trapped in a challenging situation where you must make a tough decision? The psalm for today is between Psalm 16 and Psalm 18. In Psalm 16, the psalmist, who is King David, declared, "You are my Lord, and I have nothing good apart from you." David is confident that the Lord will protect him, and he praises the Lord for guiding his life, even at night when his thoughts trouble him. His heart is joyful, and he rejoices as he rests, knowing that the Lord will be faithful. But David's praise for God's protection in Psalm 16 will transform into a plea for help in the lectionary reading of Psalm 8:17. The psalmist earnestly asks the Lord to hear him, respond, safeguard him, and rise up to save him from his merciless enemies who relentlessly pursue him with the intent to destroy him. The psalmist will make numerous requests. Although he acknowledges his own flaws and he's not blind to his own sin, he firmly believes he is innocent of the accusations made by his enemies. Even in his helplessness, he remains hopeful, trusting that God will support him. The psalmist begins by urging the Lord to listen and pay attention to his prayer as his appeal comes from his lips that are free of deceit. He's not seeking loopholes in God's laws or misrepresenting his enemies. He speaks the truth with honesty. Rather than following the path of the violent, the psalmist wishes to remain on the Lord's path to keep his footing secure. The psalmist will deepen his prayer because of his close relationship with the Lord. And while the Lord listens to the psalmist is enveloped in the Lord's steadfast love. For a moment, the psalmist finds refuge in the Lord's embrace, where he can hide from his enemies. You see, there's no point in trying to negotiate with his enemies. The psalmist describes them as uncaring, ruthless, and hard-hearted. They speak with arrogance, and they're like animals hunting to kill. The enemies of the psalmist did not seek truth or goodness, only evil. The psalmist asks the Lord to rise up, confront, and defeat his enemy. A calmness emerges in his words and heart as he entrusts the situation to the Lord. Then the psalmist will reflect that every good and valuable thing flows from God's goodness, and his enemies are also benefiting from all of God's goodness. However, they never thank God, nor do they honor him. In contrast, the psalmist understands that he will one day dwell in the presence of the Lord for eternity. The psalmist is now in Psalm 18. He has assembled a choir along with a choir director, and he's prepared to praise and celebrate the Lord for rescuing him from his enemies and from the grasp of King Saul, who has pursued him as if he were a wild animal. He begins his song, "I love you, Lord. You are my strength. Lord, you are my rock, and you are my deliverer. I call to the Lord, who is worthy of praise, and I was saved from my enemies." When we find ourselves between a rock and a hard place, unsure of what to do, we can rely on God to rescue us from challenging situations that often seem unyielding. God is ready, willing, and he's able to help.